All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jay Berkowitz. Great to see. We got a great crowd today, and our topic is LinkedIn for lawyers. And I'm very pleased to have, we called it a world-class panel, and I really believe it is. I've had the pleasure of knowing Debbie for probably about 10 years now, and she is really one of the world's best LinkedIn experts. And we've done a number of these type of events and panels together, and you'll love her. And Christina is a new friend who was introduced by someone else who previously worked at LinkedIn. And Christina previously worked at LinkedIn, and she was one of their brand experts, helping companies figure out how to use LinkedIn and helping individuals at a very high level develop their personal brands on LinkedIn. So I think you all will love it. Christina and Debbie, welcome. And just quick audio check. You guys can see my audio and see my slides.
We can.
If you can, everybody else can. Okay, great. So I'm going to go first, and here's our agenda for today. I'm just going to cover off five what I consider to be pretty basic strategies for LinkedIn, quick advertising case study, and what my sort of overall easy content strategy. And it's answering the question everybody's always asking, which is, do I really have to do LinkedIn and Facebook? And now there's Clubhouse and Twitter and all different kinds of social media. The good answer is we have an easy solution to do everything in a relatively easy manner. And then Debbie is amazing at this LinkedIn stuff, as I mentioned. She's going to go live onto LinkedIn, and she's also going to share some of her best tips. And then Christina is a personal brand expert, as I mentioned, and she's also worked in the LinkedIn advertising department. So my hoping today, we're going to have a little bit of teaching you things one or two different times, but different ways. So I'll teach a small advertising case study, and Christina will allow you to discover LinkedIn ads from the inside and her expertise. So without further ado, I'm going to cover off my five strategies. And why am I qualified to talk about this stuff? I recently discovered this tool. I'm going to show you how to find your ranking, but I'm ranked in the top 1% of all people in my industry. So I assume that's marketing folks, and number two in my network. So I'm qualified. I come from a background of Canada, actually, Winnipeg, Canada. And this is a beautiful summer's day. It's probably what it looks like there right now. And honestly, most of the year it looks like this. It's actually a skating rink there in beautiful City Park in Winnipeg. But we got smart, and my wife and I moved to beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. And that's my wife, Bonnie, and Parker enjoying the Florida weather. My background is I worked for big brands. I was super lucky early in my career working for Coca-Cola and Sprint, and working on Fortune 500 brands, marketing some of the most exciting stuff in the world. But when I was at Coke, I realized Pepsi had this really cool website, and the internet was going to change our industry. So I jumped into doing digital advertising, internet advertising, very, very early in my career. And at Sprint, we were getting people their first websites, getting salespeople their first emails. And then I went to work at McDonald's restaurants. And at McDonald's, it was amazing marketing, amazing advertising. We were selling some of the most delicious and high-fat foods in the world. But believe it or not, I went directly from working at McDonald's restaurants to working at ediets.com. And so I personally, it was great for me because I went on the e-diet and lost about 10 pounds. But e-diets was an amazing experience because it was 2001, 2002, and it was the first real hardcore internet experience. So we literally were one of the top 5 largest advertisers in the world, and we were running about $40 million worth of advertising. And I got this incredible opportunity to see what worked, to see which type of banners worked, what type of landing pages worked, and what type of offers. And with that, I wrote the 10 Golden Rules of Online Marketing and started my company called 10 Golden Rules. My new book coming out in the fall will be called Internet Marketing for Law Firms. We're making great progress on it. So I look forward to sharing that with you all as we go forward. I speak at conferences all around the world. This was Australia This was a big conference in LA and the huge event in the domain industry. I also judged the annual Millie Awards, which is for the top internet marketing by a law firm for a big conference called the M&L conference. This is our company 10 Golden Rules, our website, and we love to focus on helping you improve your marketing. And the majority of our focus today is internet marketing for law firms. And these are some of our clients, and we're proud to specialize and focus on working with law firms. Last thing I'll say about me, and then I'll start in the content, is one of the things we're proudest of is what we call the hockey stick. And this is an example of, from a business perspective, what we call a hockey stick. And my Winnipeg Jets is my hockey team, and the blade in the shaft. So on the business side, these are visits to our client's website, and these are conversions. And conversions in Google lingo are leads, calls, chats, and form fills. So calls to when they come to the landing page, they click to call. On a mobile, they fill out a form, or they do the online chat. And so we're so proud when we can get this kind of improvement. And of course, we look at the real metric, which is how many of these leads are signed as cases. So that's the focus of our business at 10 Golden Rules. So without further ado, let's get into the strategies today. LinkedIn for lawyers, and how can you use LinkedIn in your law practice or professional services, or frankly, any business. The tips we'll be sharing today are relevant for everyone. And the first thing is I like to say is, LinkedIn is really the social media for adults. And I don't mean that in terms of age, I mean that in terms of sophistication. And Snapchat started out and it was really amongst teens, and some of the new things that come along. Clubhouse is, there's a lot of people sort of network sellers on there and different things like that. But really, when it comes to doing business and referring business to other attorneys, and building your personal brand and your personal network, I believe LinkedIn's the place you do it. It doesn't mean that there's not strategies that you can apply, and I'll share that easy strategy at the end, where you can apply what you do on LinkedIn on the other social networks. But really, where adults are networking and business people is really what I mean. It's on LinkedIn. So one of the simple strategies is just make friends. And this is a guy who's become a great friend of mine, Lenny Sklar. And Lenny and I met at a networking event. And so, the first thing I do is check him out on LinkedIn. And, sure enough, Lenny and I have 108 mutual connections. So that tells me two things. Like, as I mentioned off the top, I'm one of the top 1% in the marketing field. I have around 5,000 or more connections. And so Lenny is, it tells me right away that Lenny is a good networker. He's got a good business base, and he's connected to a bunch of people I'm connected to. So it told me right away, like, Lenny and I could become fast friends. And sure enough, we did. And another tip I learned from Lenny, by the way, we did our one-on-one networking meeting. And then Lenny, a couple weeks later, said, "Hey, why don't we have another one-on-one?" I said, "We already had our one-on-one." And Lenny taught me that one-on-one is not a noun, it's a verb, that you should have multiple one-on-ones with the same person. And at our second lunch, we brainstormed a really great business idea we could do together to help each other's businesses. And at our third one-on-one, he came up with a lawyer he wanted to refer me to. So, LinkedIn is a great template, and then you can build your friendship off of there. Now, I stole this one from Debbie, and I'm going to give her full credit because it has been amazing during the last year and a half of COVID, and even before that. And Debbie taught me the term virtual coffee. And she said, when you meet someone on LinkedIn, it's the same as a great networking contact. You should meet them for a coffee, but on LinkedIn, you're going to make it a virtual coffee. So this guy, Daryl Ridgely, reaches out to me. I want to introduce myself. I have a proprietary SaaS platform. Oh, it sounded interesting. So I said, "Hey, Daryl, thanks for reaching out. I'd like to learn more. Please schedule a one-on-one and let's use my Calendly." So Debbie suggested the virtual networking, and I applied the additional thing, my favorite tool of the entire 2020 year. We'll just call it the year of, my friend called it the other day, leap year, is Calendly. And this is such an amazing tool because with one click, Daryl clicked and he set up a meeting with me, and the meeting actually set up a Zoom for us. So it goes on my calendar, goes on his calendar, and automatically sets up the Zoom. So the virtual coffee, steal that from Debbie, steal that from me. When you meet someone on LinkedIn that you think could be a good connection, like Lenny, you want to do those one-on-ones. So you set up a virtual coffee, use Calendly. It's awesome. It's really the greatest new tool of my life in the past 18 months. So the first strategy is you're going to build your network. Everyone you meet in a networking, you should connect with them on LinkedIn, and you should find people on LinkedIn that you want to meet. The next thing is it's a great networking vehicle. And here's like one of the simplest things is you can just look at someone's profile and you're going to get on their radar. Like, for example, 318 people looked at my profile last week. And so, 90, I guarantee most people do this. Who's looking at your profile? And it's kind of like an ego thing that we all have. And I think most people want to see who's looking at me. So I see John St. Clair is looking at me. Cheryl, who you're going to meet in a few minutes. We actually went through some stuff about this presentation, and Debbie had a look at my profile, which is always scary because she's going to make some great suggestions on how it could be better. Thomas Simeon's an attorney in DC, a buddy of mine. Noah Rosenfarb's a CPA I know. So I see who's looking at my profile. So like that's a super like basic one-on-one networking thing where you can just look at someone's profile and they're going to get a little heads up. They're going to start recognizing your brand. Now here's another good suggestion, and I'm in a couple networking groups, as you guys might have guessed from the topic of this presentation. And so someone in one of my groups asked, does anyone have a contact at Calendly? So I always think of this, and a lot of people, even in my CEO group, don't even think of this. Just have a peek at LinkedIn. And sure enough, on Calendly, the CEO and founder of Calendly is a second degree connection on LinkedIn. Patrick Moran is a second degree on LinkedIn. So I just click on Tope Awatana's LinkedIn profile. I apologize, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly because I don't know him, but one of my connection knows him. So when I click on his connections and I see who he's connected to that I'm connected to, there's a ton of folks in that second degree. And I pinged over to Nicholas, who's an awesome landing page designer. If you come to these webinars, you met Nicholas on our website design and landing page webinar. And Nicholas knew someone in the marketing department, and I was able to facilitate a great networking connection. The other way I think of LinkedIn is it, and some of this stuff hopefully for you all is pretty basic, but the second way I think of it is it's great for research. And Matt Stevens, I hope you're here or watching this on the recording, signed up for this webinar. So I had a look at Matt Stevens' LinkedIn. Now I don't have to necessarily reach out to him or anything. I could by clicking more, I could connect with him because I have the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, so it's not showing me an opportunity to connect. But I just by looking, he's going to see that I looked at his profile. He registered for the webinar, and hopefully Matt and I can connect at some point. But let's say I wanted to just do a little bit of research and find out a little bit about Matt. Like if we set up a Calendly meeting, I'm going to have a look at his LinkedIn. I'm going to see where he went to university. I see that we're in 3 mutual groups, so I could hop in those groups. It's a great way to connect with folks as well. And then I'm going to follow the same thing I just did a minute ago. I'm going to look at the connections, and I'm going to see who we are connected to. Ron Caparelli is a good buddy, and a number of other folks that I used to work with it way back at eDiets, that was now 18 years ago, are connected to Matt. So it'd be super easy to get an introduction if I wanted to do that sort of personal one-on-one introduction. The next simple strategy I wanted to cover was some of the new tools on LinkedIn and the score tool. And I apologize, Debbie, if you're going to cover that, because you'll probably do it so much better than I am. But one of the brand new things that Cheryl showed me is you can actually run a video in your profile picture. And Debbie will probably show us this live. This guy does a great job. If you want to see a perfect example of this guy's name is Trevor Houston. He's eating a big donut of some sort there, and he's eating the donut. And he's off. What he does is he helps people optimize their LinkedIn profiles and helps them find work on LinkedIn. So, by the way, if you're looking for work, connect with Trevor. He's your guy. But he offers you a free analysis of your profile. And if you click on this new feature where the profile photo is a video, the video pops up and you can see the video. His is funny, and if you want to see a great example, that's a great way to do it. Next thing is your LinkedIn sales solution score, and I'll post this link in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. But super powerful. You click here and you get your free score, or you could also just search like LinkedIn Social Selling Index, and this is where you get your score. So, well, I'm number one of my team, but I'm one of one on my team. I'm in the top 1% of the marketing industry for LinkedIn according to their scoring here. I'm in the top 2% of my own network. So what are some of the components of my score? And by the way, 76 out of 100 is quite high. Obviously 1%, top 1%. So it's your establishment of your brand, the people you're connected to, and probably how connected they are, and your insights, like your scores for things like how many people are looking at your profile, and your ongoing relationship building. So pretty valuable to know your score and see how you're doing. Super quick advertising case study. And there's one super cool thing that I want to share with you about LinkedIn, and that is custom audiences. And they call it something slightly different, like contact targeting. But basically, what we were able to do for this webinar is we uploaded everyone on our email database into LinkedIn, and then we're able to advertise directly to some of the lawyers, some of the folks who've been to our previous webinars, people who've seen me speak at conferences. And so we sent out emails promoting this webinar. We also were able to show ads directly to the folks who also got the emails. So I believe in that duplicity in advertising marketing. So probably very, very effective. And you can do other things, like you can target companies. So we also targeted job titles and advertised and marketed to attorneys. And we did some retargeting as well, meaning people who came to the landing page should see the ad a couple more times if they didn't register for the webinar. So the first thing is you can target the folks on your list. The second thing is when you upload your list and create a custom audience, you can advertise to a lookalike audience. So let's say our audience has a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of people who are business owners who've seen me speak at conferences. When we upload that list to LinkedIn and say, give me a lookalike audience, we're going to get folks who are also business owners and also attorneys in our advertising target database. And then we set up our ad campaign, and it's a lot more sophisticated. Obviously, we had 13 different groups. We had multiple ads and different copy and stuff like that we were testing. But here's the bottom line. We spent $1,000, and we're still testing with this a little bit. We're basically helping support these webinars with a little bit of advertising. And really great, our ad was shown 25,000 times. So 25,000 people would have seen advertising and marketing from us. We had 121 clicks. LinkedIn is expensive, right? It's $8.49 a click. This is B2B marketing. We got 18 registrations. So a lead is folks who registered for the webinar. Again, B2B, business to business, much more expensive than consumer, $57. So for those of you who signed up, thank you. We invested in you being here today, and hopefully we can do business together one day in the future. Our conversion rate was 14%, which is obviously real good. A lot of times you hear about conversion rates are 2 or 3%, but we're advertising and marketing to folks who are either on our list or they're attorneys by job title. We're on LinkedIn advertising about a LinkedIn strategy webinar. So it probably made a ton of sense. 14% conversion rate is real strong for this type of thing. So hopefully that's helpful. And Christina will cover more about setting up your advertising campaign and how to take advantage of LinkedIn advertising. Final thought I wanted to share with you was content strategies. And we always say in our industry, content is king, so important for building your presence, your profile. I mean, just adding something to LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat once a week is like super powerful just to stay top of mind. I mean, like let's think of LinkedIn as for, a great place to build your attorney referrals. And one of the core business functions of attorneys is bringing in business. And one of the best places to get it is from the folks you went to law school with, or other attorneys, from social networking and things like that. Because, if you're a personal injury attorney, one of your buddies from law school is a business litigator. He's not going to take the PI case. But, if his firm doesn't do that, you want him to think of you to send you that case. And you might not have seen him for 5, 10, 15 years since you went to law school. So LinkedIn and adding content to LinkedIn on a regular basis is a great way to stay connected. So connect with all those folks. Connect with everyone you hung out with in law school. Even look for people who went to your law school and connect with them, even if they weren't in your year, because you guys share something totally in common. You're both attorneys. You both went to the same law school. You're probably going to have a little bit of a bond, and that could be, if you do connect, that'd be a great person to have that virtual coffee with. So having the content out there, once you do connect, having that content out there on a regular basis is a great way to stay in touch with these folks. Now, just a couple super quick examples, and then we'll get on with the rest of the panel. This guy amazes me every single day, and he's always sharing content about innovation. For the most part, it's business innovation, but I love this one. He had 3 little kids, and he said, these kids win Halloween. Who agrees? And they had these little outfits, and then when the kid got down on the ground, you can see like that's his knees. He was a transformer, and he turned into like the coolest little jet, and this guy turned into like a little vehicle of some kind. But generally, he's got business innovations, and he blows my mind. But if you look at his numbers, it's amazing. He's a power profile, the most influential voice. He's has 2,700,000 followers, and he puts out amazing content that people are going to like, comment, and share, and it builds his profile. And his job is innovation. He's a CEO of innovation, and he's always talking about innovation. This is my buddy Richard Shapiro, and he sent out some videos. His business is around customer service and customer service surveys. He did a really, really nice job with his videos. And I put a comment and I said, congratulations. And he said, hey, Jay, thanks for your comment. This is what you suggested to me 2 years ago when we met. It took me a while to get it off the ground. And what I'm suggesting here is just like put a video up, put a blog post up, even if you're curating content like Richard James is, super easy to just add content on a regular basis in your subject matter area. And the best thing is LinkedIn promotes it. Like sometimes you get an email, hey, Jordan Zimmerman is in the news, Marcelo Clure is in the news, and I get these updates. But LinkedIn's telling me, and really all these guys did is they posted an article, or Jordan posts, he's doing a video series now. And so he's doing Wednesday winners and Fearless Fridays. But just come up with one simple thing that you can add to your content. And then here's my simple last thought, my simple solution. We met this company called Repurpose House. Love these guys. And what they do is they take from my existing content. So what they're doing is that from these webinars, they're creating 2-minute edited videos, and they do 4 per month, and they create 9 different pieces of content each time they do. So this one's formatted for LinkedIn. There's a one that's formatted for horizontal phones, or vertical and horizontal, and they do still images as well. They give me 36 pieces of content every month, repurposed from each webinar, and we put that out in our social media. So now it's making it super easy. If you do a podcast, if you do a presentation, it's recorded on video. If you do some videos, Repurpose House, or just using that same strategy where you repurpose your existing content, is super powerful. Last thought, you've heard it before if you've been on these webinars, something I call cascading content. And so we do this with our content, with our webinars. When we send an email out about this webinar, we also post it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and my personal LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So you take an original piece of content, in this instance, information about a webinar, and you post it everywhere. And we do the same thing each week. We have, an article or a blog post that goes out, and we post it we cascade it like a waterfall cascades down from the river to the little puddles. We cascade it throughout our social media. So without any more time, quick wrap up. Make friends, connect with folks who went to your law school or went to your college. When you go to a networking event and someone's worth having a connection, always the first place you should go with that business card. I had one here on my desk the other day. I was at a physical event again, added it to LinkedIn. Great networking. So LinkedIn's a phenomenal tool to connect people. Someone was looking to meet someone at Calendly. Someone in my network knew the CEO of Calendly. Boom, connection made. New tools, know your score. So I'm going to check out the little video. I'm going to put a video in my photo. Next thing I do. And now I know my social media score, thanks to Cheryl. It's a great research tool. And finally, use that ability to cascade content throughout. So without further ado, I want to introduce Debbie Weems. And by the way, it is, I think after all these years, Debbie, I pronounce it correctly, right? And Debbie is awesome. And, I think she tells this story. So I'm not speaking out of school. She was actually out of work, and she was using LinkedIn to look for new work. And she realized there was no tools out there, no courses, no coaching to teach you how to build your profile and how to build your LinkedIn. And so she became a real expert, and she was so successful that she started helping her friends, and it very quickly became a business that's really, really awesome. She's one of the best. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie. And Debbie, are you going to go live, or do you want me to share the PDF?
I am going to go live, and thank you so much for that generous introduction. No pressure at all, Jay. I love you. Hi, everybody. So let me do this. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go right over to LinkedIn. And tell me if you're seeing my homepage.
We got it.
All right. Okay, so thanks for the time you've made to attend this webinar. Jay, you have done a stellar job. I don't really have anything to say. Oh, I have plenty to say. You're going to have to shut me up. I know you gave me 12 minutes, so that is what I scheduled. I am setting my timer right now. There we go. So there is a PDF coming your way. Anybody that attended, I gave it to Jay in advance. I'm not a PowerPoint person. I usually do a few slides and then I go over here live. I find it much more entertaining, let's say, to go live on the site and show you some things specifically. But in that PDF, there are a couple of stats that I think are worth mentioning. LinkedIn turned 18 years old last month, or actually in May, and they now have a little over 766 million members around the world in over 200 countries. Now that number is a little mind-boggling. To kind of bring you back to earth, there's about 103 members who are actually deemed as active members. That means they're on the site an average of 3 to 4 times a week. And that's the audience, and it's a pretty big one, 103 million members. That's the audience that you're going to be engaging with the most. So in addition to everything that Jay said that I thought was great, you want to make it a point to engage and connect with people that are viable for your business. So in terms of addressing attorneys, we've worked with lots of them. I've actually done 2 conferences, one in Austin and one in, of all places, Omaha, Nebraska, both of them at the universities there for the Center for Women in Law. So I've been in front of hundreds of female attorneys at the top of their game, general counsels and so forth. And, LinkedIn's just as important for attorneys. I will mention you need to pay attention, of course, to the compliance regulations. And as a side note, the Florida bar regulations that govern advertising, that's the most boring reading I've ever done. But to get in front of a bunch of students down at the St. Thomas School of Law in Miami, I needed to become very familiar with the compliance regulations. So the way we happen to work with attorneys, we create content with our clients, but we give everything to them in a Word document that subsequently gets approved, and then the attorney uploads it to their profile. That's generally the way we work, unless the attorney wants us to just go right ahead and put everything on, but we're not going to be liable if we do that. So we're very strong believers in two things: integrity and professionalism. So the other interesting stat is, even after 18 years, LinkedIn is still adding more than 2 new members per second. Let that sink in. There's opportunities here for every industry, every professional. Certainly job seekers have to have a presence on LinkedIn. It's part of the hiring process. Yes, I did discover the site as a job seeker. Happy to say we've just celebrated our 10th year in business as of June. And today, I just put out the first of a video series, speaking of videos, that spotlights our staff. It suddenly dawned on me, and I'm telling you, 10 years went by like that. And it dawned on me that we had never really spotlighted our staff before. So I started today. I launched my video this morning as a post, and I'm going to skip around and show you a bunch of different things here. I'm not able to show the cover story. That's what it's called. When I'm on my own profile, it doesn't display. But if anybody in the audience, I want to connect with everybody for sure. If you go to my profile, you'll see a 10-second, it's kind of like a Harry Potter effect. I fade in. You see me for 10 seconds talking. You won't hear me until you tap on my headshot. Then you'll see, I believe it is a 30-second video. So you do it with your mobile and you do it as many times as it takes you to get it the way you want it. I did that's the first shot I did at Cover Story, because we did a webinar a couple of weeks ago and I needed to have an example of what we were talking about. It's new. I think everybody has it by now. LinkedIn does roll out changes, so not everyone gets things at the same time. But I'm pretty sure everybody has Cover Story now, and it'll be on your mobile app when you bring up LinkedIn. Go to your profile and you'll see it right near your headshot. It'll say something like add cover story, and that's where you tap it to do your video. So it's like a little preview of you live speaking. Again, I really think this might have been born out of the pandemic, when so many of us weren't able to see people face to face for so long. Thankfully, we're coming back into in-person stuff. But it is a good thing to add to your profile, and you can change it as much as you want, as often as you'd like. The other thing I want to point out is right here. And again, I can't show you because I'm on my own profile. If I tap this, you're not going to hear anything. This is a 10-second video. It's called Name Pronunciation. Again, on your mobile app, when you bring up your own profile, you're going to see that little speaker. And it's an opportunity intended to tell your viewers how to pronounce your name. I think it was custom made for me. I have a Scottish last name. Nobody can say it, pronounce it, or remember it, or much less spell it. So anyway, you can actually say your name in about 1.5 seconds, and then you have another 8.5 seconds to say whatever you'd like. So if you listen to mine, you'll see how we use it. I change it the first of every month. So what I wanted to show you, and I do get sidetracked pretty quickly, in terms of activity, you can do this on anyone's profile, whether you're connected or not. By the way, when you connect with me, your connection count will go up by 1. but you and I will become first level connections. And that means you've brought my network, which right now is 12,319 people. You're bringing all those members into your network. And this is important to understand, first, second, and third level members. You'll see that after everyone's last name when you bring up a profile. Second level people, they can introduce you to your targets. And then all those second level members have a network called third level members to you. So connect with me, you'll instantly boost your network by 12,000 people who can now find you in organic searches. We still come across people after 10, 12 years on here that think that once they put up a profile, anybody can find them. That's true if they have your name. Otherwise, you have to be in the network somewhere of the people that are doing the search. So if someone's looking for a personal injury attorney and they type that in up here, our job is to make sure that our clients that are personal injury attorneys show up on page 1 of those searches. Now, the only way you can do that is with keyword optimization of your profile. Jay touched on that. We offer a 15-minute complimentary profile review to anybody that wants it anytime. Totally complimentary. There's no obligation. Happy to get into more detail on these things with you during that 15 minutes. And in the PDF that you'll get, the very final page has all of our information on how to arrange that profile review. And I have to add, our newest coach is trilingual. So we now offer everything in Spanish and Portuguese as well as English. Me, I stick to English. Anyway, let me show you a couple of examples of people that we have worked with. And I'm going to go over to Brian. Okay, so Brian happens to be a personal injury attorney. This is an example of an optimized headline. So instead of the standard, whatever, partner at law offices of Brian, whatever, LinkedIn will automatically put in your title and your company, whatever you have underneath your experience as your current job. We like to personalize this field because it's one of 5 on your profile that has to have a good representation of keywords. Keywords are reflective of your expertise, whether it's products, services, talent, doesn't matter. If someone doesn't have your name or they don't know your firm's name, think about how they're going to find you. So these are the keywords that Brian wanted to emphasize, and we got them right into his headline. There's a couple of other areas. The about section is another area where you want to fill it up with sentences that have keywords. But here's a really important thing. Number 1, please have an about section. I'm still amazed at how many people don't take advantage of this. You can put together several paragraphs. The current character count limit is 2,600. I'll tell you now, Word and LinkedIn don't agree. I don't know why. So we keep our about sections, we keep it around 25, 80 characters. We do use every character available. We max it out and we're telling a story. So it's not all about your law firm. You are building relationships here. You need to let people know a little bit about you, the professional behind the profession. This is where we excel. I personally have written over 500 summaries, and I still call them that. Now they're called the about section. I don't know why LinkedIn makes crazy little changes, but they drive us crazy because we have to run back to our reference documents and change them again. Anyway, it should be a combination of information, not just all about the law firm, not just all about your accolades. It's a mix. It's a mix of information because you're trying to get the viewer, who 99% of the time may not know who you are. They are looking for you. They're looking for a service that they need. All right, you got them on your profile. Give them something to read because LinkedIn has proven repeatedly, write your about section in the first person tense. And if you give people an about section, they will read it. So our goal is always By the time they finish reading that about section, we want the viewer to be inspired to want to know more about you. And that's how we put together an effective summary. I'm going to flip over to, got to get this toolbar out of the way, Lisa. All right. Now, neither Lisa or Brian, they're both going to get a message from me. They're not using this background banner. And if they did have a business page, it's actually called a LinkedIn page. So now you have LinkedIn profiles and LinkedIn pages. If you're a business owner, you can create a LinkedIn page free of charge if you have 3 things. You need over 100 connections. You need to have an email with the business name in the extension of the email. So no Gmail, God forbid, Hotmail, AOL, or any of that. You have to have a business email, and you need to have at least 100 connections on your profile. I'm sure everyone on this call can meet those requirements. And then you can create a free LinkedIn page. You can go over to the little me over here on the navigation bar, and right down at the bottom, I already have one created. And if I did not, at the very bottom, the very last thing would say create company page. And that's what they used to call them. So they still do in that section, but it's actually called a LinkedIn page. And it acts as a mini website, which is great because who doesn't want more visibility? And here's the really cool thing about LinkedIn pages. We used to do a 2-hour workshop to tell people how to start them from scratch and what to do with them. LinkedIn's made it so easy now that we can tell you how to do everything you need to know in about a 90-minute session. And then you'll take off with it. As soon as you get 100 followers on that page, the SEO, the search engine optimization for that page, goes out of LinkedIn right into Google. That can really give your Google rankings a nice bump. So we highly recommend, if you don't have a page yet, get one. It's really not that hard to put them together. And of course, we know people that can help you with that. Okay, Lisa is an elder law attorney. That's her specialty. That's right in her headline. She also wants to emphasize Medicaid and VA benefits and so forth. That's another example of an optimized headline. Now, they just recently increased the character count. So the character count on headlines is now 220, and that includes spaces. The other thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to go back to my profile for a minute. So Jay made a really good point about repurposing things. And boy, we think of that all the time. If you're going to invest in anything to do with marketing, think about all the different ways you can keep using that content. And our best way to describe good content, you want to inform and educate. And you don't want to pitch your firm all the time. People get kind of bored with that after a while. You might even lose a few connections if you are constantly throwing your firm at them, with all the posting that you're doing on the home page. So shake it up a bit. You've got lots to talk about. You have, cases that you can reflect on the lessons learned. You can forewarn people, to be careful about this, that, and the other thing, depending on what your specialty is in the legal field. And speaking of repurposing, the featured section, which came out a few months back, is exactly for repurposing. So when you're on your own profile and you create this section, all you have to do is hit the plus sign. You can repurpose anything you've posted, any articles, and articles are like blogs. If you blog, you can literally copy and paste into the article template, and now you're posting, publishing articles on LinkedIn. Repurpose your blogs. So you can repurpose posts or articles, any link on the internet, and any media. Media is photos, videos, any kind of documents, and now they do, thankfully, allow Word, PDFs, anything. LinkedIn is getting there. They're constantly improving, we think. But these are all opportunities to engage with your target. So this is the video. I hate that still shot that came out of that, but anyway, this is the video I posted this morning. This is our July newsletter. And you can keep adding different things to this. I'm on the board for a nonprofit, so I got a couple of things about them. We're going to be carrying on this 10-year anniversary forever. And then you can really get into my stuff and click see all. But here's the thing, if you're getting ready to meet with somebody, maybe a new prospective client or whoever, go to their profile and hit the activity button, not necessarily featured, but you're going to see prominent things under featured. And you can go right into seeing what that person has been up to lately. All right, Jay, I told you I could talk forever. I'm already at 17 minutes. Do I have a couple more minutes or do I need to cut?
Why don't we save, because you'll get great questions and your content is awesome. So why don't we save it till after? I'm just going to quickly sum up and
All
we'll
right.
get to Christina. So I loved your explanation of the video cover story. I didn't know that's what it was called. And thank you to Cheryl, who's actually chatting with me. She's here as well, who showed me that last night. The name pronunciation is awesome, especially when your last name is Weems, but it's spelled, it confuses everybody, as you said. You touched on something I think super important and super valuable, and that's search engine optimizing both your personal profile, your business profile. You said you have up to 2,600 words in the about, and you advised sticking to 2,580. And telling a story and building relationships, really valuable and important. Don't just like blah, blah, blah. And I remember someone said, your LinkedIn headline shouldn't be your title. It should be what you do for people, how you make their lives better, the benefit, not the features. The background banner. There's a great tool called Canva, Canva. I'm sure you recommend it as well.
That's
And
what we use.
Canva has free design templates, and they actually have one perfectly sized for LinkedIn. So if you all look at my LinkedIn background, I did that on Canva. I love that. I didn't know how you got a business page because I did mine so long ago. So you need 100 connections and a business email. That's awesome. And one thing you said about good content, and I mentioned off the top that people probably hear things a few different times, a few different ways. And you said great content is to inform and educate. And for many years, I coined the phrase, the 3 E's of social media: educate, entertain, and engage. It was very similar, kind of overlaps. And, obviously, if
good.
you teach people something in your social media and make them, throw a laugh out once in a while. I've been telling everyone lately, I post stuff about these webinars and, great tips for marketing, and I'll get 10, 15, 20 likes. And I posted my dog after he came out of the groomers and it got 80 or 90 likes.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And the final one is engage. Create that two-way dialogue. Just what I talked earlier about, just going on someone else's LinkedIn profile and like their posts, congratulate them on their work anniversaries, things like that. Super low-hanging fruit, super easy to do. Debbie, you're awesome as always. We'll get back to you in the Q&A. And
Thank you.
I want to introduce Christina. If this only takes me 1 second, I'm going to bring up your slide first. And I think, nope. Okay, I got it, except now I can't see my LinkedIn. Okay. So as I mentioned, we worked with one of Christina's coworkers as a strategist, helping us figure out LinkedIn advertising. It's one of the trickiest things because it's so expensive. And we used to do like $2 million a month in Facebook advertising, but LinkedIn was always challenging to our team. So Christina's an expert in that, 14 years B2B and B2C branding. And, I'd love her even more if she didn't work for the Edmonton Oilers, my Winnipeg Jets. Like, that's our historical rival. But without further ado, let her tell you a little bit about her background, and I'll stop sharing so I can get over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay. So appreciate everyone's time today to connect and talk about personal branding, talk about company branding, talk about social media branding. As Jay mentioned, I run a company called The Brand Audit, and I specialize in helping people with exactly that, whether it be personal branding, to find a job, to be a thought leader on LinkedIn, to attract a network. But I also help companies kind of find their place from a small size to a medium size to an enterprise size, helping them with their organic social and helping them with their paid social. So today I'm here to kind of talk about personal branding and company branding and what I've learned through working directly at LinkedIn, working with some of the top technology companies in the world like Amazon and Microsoft and IBM and Cisco, and helping them with their strategies, but also working with clients under the brand audit and working with various brands throughout my career. Jay, do you have the deck to share now?
Do you want to share it, or do you want me to? I do have it, and I can.
You can share it. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay. Share screen. Yeah, so just say change slide or something like that.
Awesome. So yeah, you can go to the next. Perfect. So I love this quote from Amazon CEO, because personal branding is really what people think of you when you're not in the room. So it's really, really important to kind of build your personal brand, build your company brand when you're not present, and think about what might come up when people search you on Google or Microsoft Bing, and think about what your brand presence is in the marketplace. And you can switch to the next slide. And although I help clients in a variety of different industries, we're here to talk about LinkedIn specifically for the law industry. And it's an exciting time for lawyers on LinkedIn. According to the American Bar Association, over 76% of law firms are actively using LinkedIn for both their personal branding and their company branding. And LinkedIn is seeing this increase on the platform of more and more lawyers joining, especially in the pandemic, where, like Debbie and Jay said, you can't connect in person. So virtual connections or virtual coffees are so important. So we're seeing that massive increase, 68% just in the last year, of the legal sector using LinkedIn for effective branding. And so over the course of my career, working at LinkedIn, working with other brands, I have a lot of LinkedIn knowledge to share, but for the time constraints of this presentation, I've kind of distilled it down into 6 core things that I think everyone should be doing, whether they work in the legal sector, where they work in another sector. But the first one is really around authenticity and being human. I think that so many people in various industries think of LinkedIn in its infancy stage, when it was this resume-based platform. It was an opportunity to job hunt, to grow your career. But they think they have to be super polished, super professional, very Uber kind of professional. And LinkedIn has evolved a lot in the 18 years that it's been in the market. And right now, content and thought leadership and more human-centric conversation is being consumed 17 times more than job postings right now. So it really has evolved into this community where you can create dialogue and you can kind of talk to people back and forth and establish networks and establish content. And I really believe in being human and talking in a way that is going to resonate with the audience. I think Debbie said the professional behind the profession, and I love that. I think that you really need to show your human side, show that you have a personal life in addition to your professional, because that really attracts people and helps them engage with you more and helps them see you as someone they want to connect with and want to develop a relationship with. And I've included an example here for you guys to view. I think Lena Yousefi does a fantastic job of creating that human brand on LinkedIn. As you can see here, a lot of her posts feature her daughter, even her own LinkedIn cover profile has her daughter in it. So she really talks about how she balances her law career with being a mom and some of the considerations that she has about women in the law profession. And she really has done a great job of establishing a personal brand that's very human, very connectable. And so I really encourage lawyers to kind of think about what their personal brands are, what kind of human truths they can share with their audience that will kind of connect them. And then the second kind of branding tip is really around leveraging your own POV and looking at that white space opportunity. So it's not just enough to like have a personal brand and like talk about yourself and your company, but it's also really important to find that white space opportunity of things that other law firms aren't talking about, other lawyers aren't talking about, and establishing yourself in that market and with that topic and that industry. And don't be afraid to kind of have a point of view, right? I think a lot of people just repost content that they find interesting and don't include like an intro to that content. So they'll just repost links or repost videos. And what is really compelling on LinkedIn, what will garner traction in the algorithm is providing that clear POV and thinking about how this affects your audience. So whenever you're sharing content, think about what your audience cares about and how this certain legislation, certain improvements in the law field, certain cases might affect your personal audience, and then speak to that and provide a perspective. And I think that employees are becoming more and more important than brands. Looking at Hootsuite data, employees are 53% more trusted than their CEOs right now, and 65% more trusted than the brand. So if you can leverage technical experts within your field and speak to them and leverage some of that content, because brands are becoming less and less trusted in this digital economy. And so I included a couple of examples there that you can kind of take a look at how Jordan kind of conveyed his own personal POV and shared a really unique perspective. And then the third tip is really around creating that dialogue and creating that reciprocity opportunity. I think a lot of people talk at their audience rather than with their audience. And so you really want to create that two-way dialogue, and you don't want to have it as a one-way street. You want to use marketing as a megaphone, but also a listening device. And so creating that kind of two-way dialogue is really important. Jay talked about it a little bit in his section, but following influencers, connecting with different people on LinkedIn, following different companies, following hashtags, joining groups can be a really, really powerful way to get your personal brand out there or get your company brand out there and get inserted into that dialogue and create that two-way conversation. And you can switch to the next slide. And then the fourth recommendation is really around rich media. A lot of people in the past on LinkedIn have just done kind of text-only content, and text-only content can be really powerful. But what we're seeing in the LinkedIn algorithm is that rich media is really honing in on the audience and really capturing that engagement level. And if you look on LinkedIn, you're going to see a variety of different rich media content. As Debbie said, LinkedIn has evolved its content offerings quite a bit throughout the last couple of years. And they've launched a lot of different marketing solutions for companies and brands to take advantage of. So I was actually part of the Tiger team globally that led the launch of native video. And we saw an explosion of engagement at LinkedIn for native video, people using that to tell a story about their brand, tell a story about themselves. And I was just on the new beta with stories to launch LinkedIn stories. And that has also taken off quite a bit. So think about the different rich media content, video, stories, carousels, articles, GIFs, infographics, to kind of capture that audience. Our audience is becoming more and more time starved, especially with those still working from home, those still operating in very digital environments. You want to get either your personal brand or your company brand to that audience in a clear, concise, quick way. And video or visual content is a really great way to do that. So I've included a tech lawyer that I think does a great job of that. As you can see by some of her rich media, she does a mix of videos, a mix of infographics, a mix of GIFs, and is really able to kind of capture and engage that audience really effectively. And you can switch to the next slide.
I'm clicking, it's not switching.
Oh, no problem. And so once you've established that personal brand, once you've provided a POV, once you've looked at some rich media, the fifth tip is really to look at that consistency and that frequency. I think people underestimate how much content is needed to create a brand, both from a company perspective and a personal perspective, and how much frequency an audience needs to engage with content. If you're running LinkedIn advertising, you can actually see that conversion to engagement leveling and how many impressions you actually need to get that engagement. And sometimes it's 6 pieces of content, sometimes it's 10 pieces of content. So really think about how you can create this consistency and time over time do a weekly update or a daily update of content. And like Jay said, repurposing content and breaking it down into variable pieces can be really effective in creating an effective content strategy, both personally or company-wise. And I just provided a quick example of a content series I established for myself to build my personal brand. I have an article series called Leadership in a Modern Era, where I talk about how I've led teams and how different kind of topics weave into effective team leadership and my clear point of view about leadership. And if you take the time to follow me on LinkedIn and read some of my articles, you'll see that I do have a very clear POV on leadership. Sometimes it's very divergent to kind of the status quo of the corporate world, but that really resonates with people because I'm not saying the same things that every other leader is saying on LinkedIn, but really kind of providing a unique human and clear point of view. And then the last kind of tip is around that amplification. If we're thinking about social media platforms in general, a lot of companies are seeing that they're moving to more of a pay to play model. And what I mean by that is organic content is becoming harder and harder to get in front of an audience. You saw Jay walk you through how for this webinar, we invested some money into promoting the webinar. And that's really, really important. Organic will only get you so far on all of the social platforms. And it's important to think about how you can invest in a paid strategy in addition to your organic strategy, and leverage the learnings from organic and transfer them into your paid strategy. And I think that as a company, there's kind of 6 steps that I advise the clients on. I have workshops that I do for a number of different brands. They're usually like 2-hour workshops that run through these 6 steps. So I'm going to quickly kind of run through them for you guys. But the first step is really establishing that company page. What's great about LinkedIn is that they've made it easier and easier for small business to establish company pages now. And so one of the requirements that they talked about was that company email. You actually don't need that anymore. You can establish it with a Gmail or a Hotmail email as a small business, because LinkedIn has kind of recognized that small businesses may not have those corporate emails, might not have established that yet. So they're making it easier and easier for small businesses to get on LinkedIn, to promote their business and really establish their brand. And then once you've kind of established that company page, then it's time to set up an advertising ad account. And then the third step is looking at your targeting. The fourth step is looking at your bid and budgeting. The fifth step is creating that content and that creative. And then the sixth step is really around optimizing, measuring, and reporting. So you can click to the next slide. I've included a checklist for you guys to kind of think about when you're going through each stage. And if you need any help kind of establishing these 6 steps, creating an advertising campaign, you can always reach out to myself at the Brand Audit. We're happy to help you with that. But at the first stage with your page, it's really about getting things in place like your logo, your banner, a company description. You'll need your company size. You'll need kind of your website. You'll need some contact information, but that's kind of the bones of a page. Then when you jump into an ad account, you're going to need a lot more information, and you're going to need a lot more consideration on different variables. So you'll need naming of your ad account. You'll need a link to your LinkedIn page. You'll need some billing information, the currency that you want to run in. LinkedIn operates on a credit card basis, or you can set up an IO, which is an insertion order with LinkedIn directly. And then you can set up things like the insight tag. And for those that haven't used an insight tag before, it's a really, really powerful JavaScript piece of code that you place on your website. And it can help you in tracking who's coming from LinkedIn to your website, and looking at what companies, what job functions, what seniorities, what job titles, what locations are interested in your content, interested in your law firm, interested in you. And then once you have that set up, you can set up things like website demographics. You can set up retargeting pools. You can look at conversion tracking, and then the campaign manager, the ad account, also has things that Jay mentioned before, like matched audiences. So those are account-based marketing lists. You can upload things like email lists or company name lists, and target directly your audience in a really effective way. And then within your ad account, you can also set up things like lead gen forms. So instead of using forms on your website, you can use them natively, forms natively right in LinkedIn, capture leads, and then follow up with them after you've captured them with content. And I think we're like pretty close to time. So I can go through the other 4 steps, but if not, Jay, let me know.
No, that's awesome. And I'll send out Debbie's PDF to everyone who registered, as well as your checklist, because I think that's a great resource. And of course, I want to take a minute to thank you and grill you a little bit. But people really like it when I do my own reviews, so I'm going to do that real quick. So, a couple of your first tips I thought were really fascinating, because your first tip was be human, and you had that great example from the attorney who showed her daughter and talked about how being a top 40 woman attorney and her life. And then your second one was have a POV, have a point of view. And I thought that really connected so well with what Debbie said about telling stories and emotion in your description. So that really brought it home to me, and hopefully to some of y'all in the audience, that this is not a you can't just take your bio and drop it in here. You've got to be a little bit of a storyteller, and you might want to engage someone like Christina or Debbie or Cheryl Cattell, who's on the chat, who are professionals who are going to help you tell your story in LinkedIn. So I'd recommend that. You talked about creating dialogue and engaging people, and I thought, again, parlayed perfectly into Debbie talked about informing and educating. I talked about the 3 E's: educate, entertain, and engage. And there it is, engage. And so you had some great tips for the ways to do that with hashtags and groups. You brought it home to me because I knew it was important, but the rich media and including video. And so we stumbled upon it with this Repurpose House, where we're putting videos with these great little snippets into LinkedIn, and hopefully you'll see them going forward. And the last note I took was about your leadership in a modern era. Absolutely love that, your own content series, because it was branded and clean and so sophisticated looking. I think it was a great example of how you elevate your personal brand. Christina is a relatively young executive. Debbie and I can say that, but positioning yourself as a leader and with very professional looking and very professionally written content, I think is an awesome example of how you elevate your brand with a consistent message. So with that, I'm going to cheat and ask the first couple questions, and then I've got the chat here, so I want you all to add in your questions. Please feel free to add them in the chat. And a couple things. I put the link to the social rating in the chat, and I put I put my Calendly. So I'd love you all to book a virtual coffee with me. And so please click my Calendly link. And even if you just want to see how it works, check it out, because you got to get Calendly. I believe Calendly is a must-have for the modern business person / modern networker. And we all should be a networker, because your net worth is your network. And it's so true. So who can I zing first? Well, I'm going to ask you both this question. I'm going to start with an easy one. And maybe Debbie can go first. Christina talked about weekly content and daily content. My buddy Chris Ream, who I'm trying to think if he's been on one of these webinars. He's a LinkedIn guru as well. He says post 3 times a day. So Debbie, what says you? How many times a day?
I really think it depends first on the number of people in your network. If you're just starting out and you've got, less than 50 connections and you're posting 3 times a day, you're going to annoy those 50 people. I think the bigger, as you grow your network, hopefully with viable connections, it's not a numbers game, not for us anyway. We vet every person that invites us, and we carefully, strategically extend invitations. But for me, I've got over 12,000 connections after being on here for 12 years. So I post anytime I want. Morning, noon, and night still seem to be the best times, even with the work from home scenario, to get more eyeballs on your content. I really think it comes down to what you're posting about. So as far as frequency, if you're putting out really good popular content that's getting traction, go for it. Do it at least once a day. Again, got to be careful not to be self-promoting all the time. We still see that, it's ongoing. So we try to teach people how to shake it up, share other people's stuff or pull something off the internet, inform and educate.
All right. Now we have a personal brand, social brand expert, and a former LinkedIn branding expert. How many times a day, Christina?
I would agree with Debbie. It's a quality over quantity approach when it comes to content. And it's thinking about honing into your audience and what they care about. But in general, like the algorithm will reward those that are engaging on LinkedIn regularly. So from a LinkedIn perspective, if you're wanting to establish a personal brand, we recommend one post per day. And that post can be a human interest story. It can be about yourself. It can be about your company. It can be engaging with another follower, influencer. So it doesn't always need to be like a written article or a video or an infographic. It doesn't need to be a big rock piece of content. It can simply be engaging in that algorithm so that it picks up that you're active and engaged on LinkedIn.
I love it. Next question. And folks, please feel free to add your questions to the chat. You mentioned specifically, Christina and Debbie, you touched on the new video tools. Rich media in LinkedIn. Christina, why don't you go first? And I'll make it a two-part question. Part one is, what is optimal in terms of the type of content, and also technically people get hung up on the content. And the second part of the question is, can you post a YouTube video, or why is it so important to have the native LinkedIn video?
Yeah. So you want to, where possible, on all social platforms to use their native tools. Because if you think about LinkedIn, if you think about Facebook, if you think about Instagram, they're wanting to keep their members on their platform. So if you use their native tools, then the algorithm is going to reward that versus linking to an outside source like YouTube, like Vimeo. So where possible, use things like native video, LinkedIn stories, uploading PDFs or slide shares to the platform, and really like creating that environment in platform. And what we saw when we launched native video is that it was being consumed like 4 to 6 times more than static content. So video can be a really powerful way, especially for busy executives, which LinkedIn is full of. There's tons of really senior level people that are potential clients for your law firms, and they want quick, digestible content. And you touched upon kind of the quality or the level of like investment in video. A lot of people overestimate how polished their videos have to be. They think about the TV commercials. They think about the really kind of like polished brand videos. You don't need that. Yeah, it actually is less engaging than just human interest, kind of POV type videos where you're just hopping on and providing a quick 15 to 30 seconds on POV on a specific topic. And we're seeing more and more people use LinkedIn stories to kind of hop on quickly, convey a quick thought, and provide that kind of human connection to the audience. So I think the way audiences are consuming content is changing, especially with the emergence of millennials and Gen Z, who are going to be your future clients. You really need to capture how they consume content, and they're not consuming 10-page white papers. They're not consuming long articles. They're looking at LinkedIn stories, they're looking at videos, and they're digesting quick content.
Debbie, over to you. What's the best practices for making rich media in LinkedIn?
Everything Christina said. No, I have a couple of things that I'm really strong on. Length, for one. Um, you will lose me after 2 minutes if you're not really engaging me with your content. Just don't go on and on and on. And I'm guilty of, I can talk forever. I have to redo mine. The one, if you go to my profile and look at the one I put up today, I did it over there at my desk with my custom background, got the captions put in. I think I did it 6 times before I finally got it down to the length. So, be respectful of your audience's time. Honestly, stories, I really, honestly, I haven't done any because every time I go to a story, I'm going to say 2 times out of 10, it was worth it for me to leave what I was doing, go to the story and come back. Again, to me, it all comes down to content. I use other platforms to entertain more. I think, I totally agree with Christina about, the audience and what they're going to absorb is changing. And I think we all have to be mindful of that. But I love doing stuff on my patio. I've got a jungle out there. A lot of times I'll throw that as my background. And that's what I did on the cover story. I am going to redo that because I think I had about 2 hours of sleep when I when I recorded that one. So the energy is not really there. But that's the beauty of mobile, and that's the beauty of and tech making things so easy. I'm in my late 60s, and guys, if I can master this stuff, anybody can.
Thank you, Debbie. Few other questions from the chat. Eduardo, yes, the session will be recorded. And if you're watching this sometime in like 2023, I want you to go to LinkedIn, connect with me, give me a shout out, and let me know you got value all the way in the future. Joanne said she loved it. Great content. Thank you so much. Joanne, this is an amazing presentation. That's exactly what she said. Question for Christina. Why is your LinkedIn banner just a solid color? From Cheryl Cattell.
Great question. So I change my LinkedIn banner all the time, but this is the color of the brand audit. And when you're scrolling on your mobile device and you're looking through LinkedIn connections to add, a solid color will stand out amongst a lot of people using photography or imagery. So that's simply why I decided to go with a solid color.
So I'm gonna, this wouldn't
on your
work.
mobile device. Yeah.
Oh, on mobile, you'd see the background.
You see the background. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's a really good point, Christina. Interesting.
Next question from Maria. How do I find the best keywords for my profile related to the law industry?
So a tool I love and I use so much for almost every client is called Answer the Public. And it's a free tool where you can type in a variety of different topics. And so you could type in law sector or law, and you can see on the global web what people are searching, what kind of questions they're asking. And then that can inform not only your SEO, the type of keywords that you include in your content, but also the type of content you create. You can get really specific questions that your audience is asking and caring about to create content for your brand.
And I also advise people to think like a layperson. If you needed what you provide, what words would you type into Google, or the search field? And if you've got a keyword optimized profile and somebody types in one of those keywords in Google, your URL for your LinkedIn profile should be showing up in first or second place.
Thank you. C. Carey said, what is the name of the program? It's Answer the Public. And just to build on what Christina said, we love Answer the Public. And you guys, if you've been on some of our other webinars, in particular our ABCs of SEO, the basic strategies for search engine optimization. We're always talking about answering questions. And the reason for that is the new search today we do on Siri, like like, hey Siri, who's the best personal injury attorney near me? And so she didn't pick up, but normally she does. And we literally ask questions. And then over the last 5 years, Google's built their semantics understanding of the human language into their algorithms. So they literally can answer questions, and you'll see the other people ask as an actual search result in Google now, and you'll see the questions and the answers coming up. And so a lot of our search engine optimization and a lot of the work we're doing now for our LoRa clients is we're giving them 4 to 8 questions to answer. And then we put those answers out as videos on all the social media. We cascade it, as I talked about, goes on the website, goes on the blog, goes on YouTube, goes on LinkedIn, goes on Facebook. And we simply answer questions that they're getting asked all the time. New questions that come up, like, what if I'm in an Uber and I get in an accident? We never would have search engine optimized Uber accident lawyer 10 years ago. There was no Uber. One more question here. Christina, I think you mentioned it, so you can go first. Groups. A lot of people say that Facebook groups are better than LinkedIn groups. What say you?
Well, I'd say different platforms can be used for different opportunities, right? I don't think one platform is better than another, but it's really about who your audience is and what platforms they're using. So if you're finding that your audience is more on Facebook than LinkedIn, more on Instagram than Facebook, go to those platforms, go where the audience is and create that dialogue. Don't try to draw your audience to different platforms that they're not using. I say go where your audience is.
Debbie, you want to take that one too?
The same. I think people kind of go into a panic even now. I definitely, when I started my business 10 years ago, everyone we talked to was freaking out about how am I going to be on every platform, and they were rushing to get on Twitter and rushing to get on Facebook, or they were already on Facebook. They weren't rushing to get on LinkedIn, so we're trying to take care of that. But really, it comes down to who do you need to be in front of, and where are they likely to be. Honestly, I am just getting into Instagram. My 2 daughters threw me on there when I wasn't looking, but it's just as viable a platform for who we're in front of. Not so much Twitter. I'm really not doing that much on Twitter anymore. I'll always have a Facebook business page, but I'm very private with Facebook personal. I don't connect with anybody other than family. So I think it really just depends on who you need to get in front of. I mean, for us, for everything we do, the people we need are on LinkedIn. The professionals, the CEOs, the giant corporation. I mean, everybody is on LinkedIn. It's been around for 18 years, and it's the largest professional network on the internet. So Facebook is the biggest audience, but LinkedIn has it down, for professionals.
So we booked an hour and a half. We're almost right up against that time. So one last quick question, and I'll go first, so you guys can get your thoughts together if you want. If I'm a young attorney, or if I'm a more senior, seasoned attorney, and I'm just getting started with LinkedIn, what are the 3 basic things I should do? And what's one advanced tip? So I'll go first. The first thing is you want to have a great profile, great headshot. We heard from both of the experts today about getting SEO keywords in your profiles, and tell a story. Be human. And number 2, I would say, is build connections. And I talked about some strategies for finding, folks who went to your law school, for example. And then last tip is hop on once a week and just be human. Just connect with people, congratulate people on their work anniversaries. Try and be a little bit unique. Don't just click the congratulate button. And in particular, when someone posts something significant, their son or daughter graduated, or they won an award, give them a unique comment. the advanced tip that I learned today from both of our experts is the use of video and rich media on social media. Debbie, you look like you're ready to go. 3 tips and 1 advanced.
Okay. Number 1 tip for anybody, but since we're zeroing in on attorneys new to LinkedIn or not, engage. Don't just put up a profile and sit back and wonder why you're not getting anything out of LinkedIn. Engage. You need to scan that homepage. Don't start reading. You can save stuff if you want to read it later, but engage. And secondly, be active. We try to get our clients into what we call the habit of LinkedIn. 15 to 20 minutes a day is what we've got it down to with our action plan. Third is be authentic. It is not all about you. Yes, attorneys have very prestigious, professions, and they are super professional, and they're usually super good at what they do, but it's not all about you. So you have to kind of step back and be authentic. Again, be informative, be professional.
Christina, 3 tips and then 1 advanced. 3 tips for a beginner, 1 advanced tip for the pros.
Yeah, I think you guys have covered it, but I think like the big macro thing is invest, right? Invest in your personal brand, invest in your company brand, take the time and take that long-term view. I think too often people think I can create a personal or company brand overnight or in a month or in 2 months. Branding is really that long-term approach, right? If you want to generate leads as a law firm or want to generate connections as an individual, you need to think about filling that marketing funnel. And you need to think about investing at that top of that funnel, that branding, so that you can get to that consideration and that lead generation standpoint for your company. And like Debbie and Jay said, it's consistency. It's showing up daily, showing up weekly, providing valuable content that your audience cares about, and thinking about that audience in everything you do. I think always having that audience first mindset, and thinking about what they care about, their wants, their needs, using tools like Answer the Public to tap into their wants and needs, and creating content specifically for them.
Jay,
That's
can
awesome.
I add a little advanced one? Because I forgot. My advanced tip, follow the LinkedIn blog. And you can just Google that. And you can.
That's a
The
good
Marketing
one.
Solutions blog is a great
Yes.
is a great blog to keep on top of all of the new advancements. Like you said, Debbie, like LinkedIn is rolling out left and right new things for marketers or for law firms to take advantage of. So really thinking about the new tools and taking advantage of them can be a powerful way to build your brand.
What's it called, Christina?
The LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog. I can
Marketing Solutions blog.
Yeah, I can provide.
And by the way,
yeah,
if you put the link in the chat, that's awesome. By the way, that's a great tip for the other social media too. Like if our search guys follow the Google search blog, and there's a Facebook developers blog that is talking about all their new advancements and things like that, and you can find great ways to hack your marketing in a positive way. Last thing, I missed a question in the Q&A. I was looking in the chat. Ralph Bear, lawbehr.com. I'll give you a plug, Ralph. Says, Debbie, my firm markets B2B for money laundering, federal trials, Bitcoin money laundering, federal prosecutions. Which platform would you suggest for my firm? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? Question mark.
I did get your other communication, sir. I got the law.behr, I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
I did get your other communication while this was going on. I'll be in touch. I'm going to tell you LinkedIn, because if you can't get right to your target, you can certainly connect with people that are connected to your targets. I'll be happy to talk to you later.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, as I said off the top, LinkedIn is like the adult social media, and it's the business social media. And if you're, you could, because you're in the sort of Bitcoin space, you could get some traction on Twitter. And you might want to check out Telegram. Telegram is super highly used in the blockchain community. And that might be a little niche opportunity where there's not that many people on there, so there's not that much noise, but you could communicate in a niche and talk about these federal prosecutions. Anyways, with that, I want to thank you all so much. Christina, thank you all for being here. Christina, you're awesome. Debbie, as always, you're awesome. And the recording will be available, and we'll all promote it on our LinkedIn. So thank you so much. And Christina, nice to meet you and work with you on this. And Debbie, I look forward to doing it again one day soon.
Thank you, Jay. This was great. Christina, wonderful stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so
I
much.
gotta run.
And
Bye, everyone.